Okay, so my name is Rebecca Allen, and I'm going to introduce to you the speakers today. We have Jane DeMarines, and we have her daughter Erin DeMarines.
Hi,
And
Erin.
Erin is a vegan entrepreneur, and she started eFit Foods, a plant-based company in Florida. She's been featured on Bloom TV and Unchained TV. And Jane is a 20-year vegetarian and climate diet CEO, vegan now, of course, and in her spare time she tries out these recipes. So I'm going to turn it over to you two. And Jane, did you want to do the slides or did you want me to?
I hope I can do them. Let me share my screen and see if it works. Okay.
Uh-huh. And then also feel free to ask for questions when you're ready at the end or during the, however
Can
you
you
do it.
tell me if you can see my whole screen?
We do not see it.
Oh no. I'm hitting slideshow, and you still can't see it.
No, don't see it yet.
Will do you mind? We'll just get started with the slideshow. Rebecca, do you mind just changing them as I go through them?
I'm looking for them now. Sorry. I had
Do you want
them
me to
up.
resend it?
No, I have them. Just let me get them up here for a second.
Okay, well, why don't I just go ahead and start? First of all, thank you so much, Rebecca and Dr. Rayo, for inviting us to do this presentation. I don't think we have nearly as exciting the graphics as the prior one, and that's really exciting to see all these games. And I think it's a creative way to get the message out. As BJ said, I'm Jane DeMarines. I'm the executive director of Climate Diet, and Erin and I are both wearing our Erin and Jane's Kitchen aprons because we are all about the food, but also about the climate. And I'm moving to the first slide. I don't know if you're
Almost there.
okay. Well, we'll just pause on that a little bit. But I'm going to talk about some of the things that Climate Diet does. We promote reduced meat consumption, and we try to do that by telling people both about the diet, about their diets and the influence of their diet on the climate, and to get them to reduce meat. Some generations, the younger generation, is much more prone to it. The idea, I think they haven't been around as long. They haven't been eating meat as long as some of generations of my age. And so there seems to be more flexibility. So some of the other generations, it's also meat can be very cultural. People have holidays that meat is a big part of it. We just try to get people to reduce meat one day a week as a way to get started. And even that one day a week, if the population of the United States did that for one day a week for 1 year, it's equal to taking 25 million gas-powered cars off the highway. That's the equivalent. And I think Dr. Rayo makes it very clear how huge animal agriculture is contributing to the greenhouse gases in the world today, to the pollution.
Okay, let's
Rebecca,
see.
are you
Okay,
back?
yeah, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to start again. But we did get
Okay.
to see the first slide. Just a moment.
Okay. So we're trying to use data like that. And one of the approaches my organization takes, we do outreach, education, and advocacy. And the outreach is to both consumers and people that want to get our newsletters or other products that we have, information products, but we directly reach out to the media. And I'm a member of the Society of Environmental Journalists, and they are becoming all about climate change, although many environmental journalists are definitely local and they look at toxic waste dumps in their own communities. I try to put out a more national approach to the issue and create more education around what's happening globally through research, information, studies, and what the federal government is doing here and elsewhere as well.
That looks great. You're on the slide 2, and that's great.
Okay.
Tell me when it's next.
So this is my website, and our previous name was Sustainable Earth Eating. It's still our name with the IRS, but we changed it to Climate Diet. My husband actually had this idea because when he goes with me to events that are focused on some of my partners, he said, nobody can understand that name when I tell them what your organization name is. And I said, yeah, you're right. Let's just change it to Climate Diet. So that is our new name as of about 6 months ago. But I invite you to look at our website for materials. We have newsletters there. We have plant-based recipes there. We have a pledge for anybody you know that's a carnivore that might want to just start slowly and get into reducing their meat, a meat down pledge, and also our vegan recipes. So, and that's our next slide, Erin and Jane's Kitchen. We try to get people to just be aware of the deliciousness of vegan food. And we put out a new recipe every single Friday. Erin is a fantastic vegan cook. Erin is actually, my daughter Erin is the reason my husband and I became vegan. She bought us the book by Dr. Colin Campbell. Now I'm forgetting the name of it. China Study. Right, the China Study. And then we read it, and we became vegetarians first, and then we became vegans. So we've been vegans for 4 years, but we were vegetarians for 18 years first. So Erin and I, Erin's a fantastic vegan cook, and she's teaching in her own community of Tampa, Florida, and elsewhere, and broadly through television shows. She's kind of famous in her local market and Bloom TV. So I'll let her talk about that later, but here we have a recipe for vegan pasta primavera. So a few things I thought I would add before I turn it over to her is, again, and I'm not the first person to say it, but what is happening is just not normal. 2023 was a record year for the highest temperatures globally. And the year before that, 2022, was a record year for the highest temperatures globally. And 2019 was a record year before that. So we're definitely going in the wrong direction. Record hot oceans. This is done in Erin's territory in Florida. They recorded temperatures in the ocean by Florida last year that were similar to the temperatures in hot tubs. Well, I don't think people want to jump in the ocean to be in a hot tub. Most people want to jump in and maybe cool off a little bit in the hot weather. So it's horrible. And it's more than just feeling those hot temperatures. It's disrupting the Gulf Stream. And scientists are saying that with enough disruption, that Gulf Stream can be so disrupted, it's controlling much of our current climate and our seasons as well. So they don't know what the ultimate impact of that will be, but it's definitely worrying the science community. Record deforestation. Dr. Rayo talked about this. A lot of that land is being raised for cattle farming, Brazil especially, Indonesia as well. Those are the two top countries that have deforestation at this time. And cattle, as we know, use so many resources. Animal agriculture is talking about, and Dr. Rayo talked about the amount of food it takes to feed cattle. It's just, and besides how much land it takes to feed them, the water resources, I think it's 1,800 gallons of water are needed to make 1 pound of beef. It's depleting resources at an exponential rate. Beef is also the highest pollutant of food in the food group. And the USDA has put out a report on animal agriculture's greenhouse gas emissions. I'm not sure they measure. I've worked with some nutritionists and a group of policymakers from a nutrition group in this area, in the state of Maryland, and we've sent letters to the Department of Agriculture to protest the way they're actually counting the greenhouse gas emissions. They don't count respiration for cattle, for example. So it's kind of an apples and oranges, and there needs to be more work in working with the Department of Agriculture to really, I think, get accurate data. And we've tried to start doing that. I think Dr. Rayo would be fantastic if he could be involved with that, with their advisory committees as well. So this slide shows greenhouse gas emissions across the supply chain. So you see at the very top, if you're with me, Rebecca,
Yes.
beef is by and far exponentially larger than the next category or any of the next categories. The next category actually is dark chocolate, which my husband's a chocoholic, but he's not eating meat, but he certainly is eating chocolate. So that's a little disappointing to us. And then lamb and mutton, dairy herd beef. But then down at the bottom of that chart, if you look at the teeny tiny amounts of greenhouse gas emissions, they're coming from fruit and vegetables, bananas, peas, tomatoes, tofu, rice, although rice uses a lot of water, but certainly nothing like the top category or the top few categories. And here's another way of looking at it. Looking at the carbon footprints, meat lover, you can see, is exponentially larger than vegan category at the other end. And you have an average meat eater, and then someone with no beef is still high, and vegetarians and vegans at the low end. And just bar graphs showing that in a different way at the bottom of that chart. We try to use these with the program we have with high school students to make it just easier to understand what the impact is when you eat meat globally. This is carbon, just measuring carbon dioxide emitted by the ton. So a few recent updates on climate data. About 78% of global salt and freshwater pollution is caused by agriculture. So not only is the ocean being impacted, but rivers and streams that are freshwater are being polluted. And that pollution is coming from animal agriculture. I know the state of Maryland is serious about this. They've actually sued the EPA for not enforcing regulations in the Chesapeake Bay. So that's a positive action to just get more accurate data and to look at who are these polluters and why are they getting away with it. And it's not just the meat themselves or the cows themselves. It's the animal, the food grown, and the pollutants from pesticides and fertilizer that are used for the food is also polluting. When it rains, all of that washes into the rivers and streams. Meat production accounts for nearly 3 times the global greenhouse gas emissions of plant-based food production, 57% versus 29%. 95% of global deforestation occurs in the tropics. Brazil and Indonesia, I mentioned this before, for almost half of all deforestation. And we talked about pushing the climate to 1.5 degrees Celsius. That was the Paris Accord. It said this is the limit that we need to be fearful of, and that all countries were trying to not reach. Well, there have been many accounts during the past year of how many places in the world have reached that degree. I read articles saying that it was reached at a level or at a rate that was very concerning. So a little bit more on deforestation. I talked about the Amazon rainforest previously, and it's receding from 2020, the latest data I could find, a 9.5% increase over the prior year. So nearly 10% increase over the prior year was cut down. It's disturbing. Since those forests, one of the things you think about is the habitat loss. Where are all the animals that lived in that forest gone? They probably are dead. That was their food. That was their shelter. And with those forests gone, where are they? The global forest loss loss is huge. 25 million acres, 10 million hectares or 25 million acres are lost each year. And this is attributed to, no surprise, agricultural expansion, logging, things that are all happening to raise either the food or the animals themselves. Here's a little aside. We put out a thing we call Climate Wednesday, and we put it out Wednesday. This year was on St. Patrick's Day, and everybody was thinking about green beer. So the good news there is green beer is vegan or can be vegan, and beer in general is generally vegan. So that's just a little good news thrown in with otherwise disturbing news. So vegetarians worldwide, the country with the most vegetarians is India, followed by Israel at 13%, Taiwan 12%, Italy 10%. Then we have a tie with Austria and Germany, and the UK all at 9%, Brazil at 8%, tied with the United States at 8%, Ireland at 6%, and Australia with 5%. That is the most recent data we had. And I think that's from the World in Data. Plant-based milks are certainly one way to improve health. And I think we know this also about meat. If you don't eat meat, you're less likely to get the saturated fat in your veins, in your arteries, and get the high blood pressure that comes with it, diabetes, and cardiac issues. Most plant milks contain almost no saturated fat. And that saturated fat is the one that raises cholesterol that's linked to heart disease. So plant-based fat is healthy for us. And I think all of us probably know that, but just restating maybe the obvious. In 2020, the World Health Organization reported that 8.8% of US children 5 years and younger were overweight. Well, that is a very disturbing trend. It's certainly even higher for the United States, and my own state of Maryland has some very disturbing data among youth up through the age of 19. I think there was an increase of 18% over the last couple of years of overweight children. One of the ways those children would lose weight without even trying, of course, if they were on a plant-based diet. So some of these trends are disturbing, but there's ways to treat them with what we all know, eating plants instead of processed foods or eating meat. These are from something we do every Wednesday I mentioned called Climate Wednesday. We just put out some data that we think should get attention and get people to be more aware of how animal agriculture and cattle and eating meat are contributing to greenhouse gas emissions, and that there are things we can all do. We can change our own behavior and not eat meat and be aware of how much pollution is coming from that industry and how much harm it's doing to our own bodies. And Salish mentioned the sea and what's happening with reaching down to the depths of the ocean to find fish, and how long will that go on? We try to draw attention to that as well. So I did mention children, and I think we have to look at the next generation to help us solve the problems of overweight, change the paradigm, and teach them the power of food and how eating can change your health, how eating can cure disease, and how eating can help the climate. I was teaching this class at a high school, after-school program in a nearby high school, and I asked the students in this class, how many of you would like me to focus on the health aspects of this topic or the climate aspects of this topic? And 100% of the students raised their hands and said climate. So that was really encouraging to me. They weren't particularly overweight students, but that they were very interested in the climate. So that's our next generation, and I think they're going to be the ones that inherit what maybe our generation has contributed to, but also are willing to make the changes. So I'd just like to thank everybody for your attention before I turn this over to my daughter. I'd like to thank Dr. Rayo especially for all the work he's done in advocating for change by all those of you out there who've changed your diet to make the climate better, and by those using their voices to change the world. And now let's hear it from another advocate. She's trying to change the world too, one recipe and one meal at a time. So Erin DeMarines, take it away.
Thanks, Mom. So nice to be here with you. And also, I just want to say thank you to who's ever still watching and for everybody that helped put this event together. Collectively, we are always stronger together. And I love this community, and let's just keep growing it. That's my ultimate plan, right? Is to let's just keep growing it and getting this information out there. We can't be ignored. We need to stick together and be really strong. So today I'm going to show you an easy recipe as we kind of transition from what Jane was talking about. I am obviously a plant-based chef, and I work with a lot of clients here in Tampa to transition from meat-eating diets to plant-based diets. And of course, all the questions I always get are, what do you eat? And I'm sure that most of you who are watching this probably get the same questions, or where do I get my protein? Or how am I supposed to eat at restaurants? And so if there's any questions that come up for you, and I've been seeing some of the questions come, I think they're great. So if there's any question that you have on your mind, please don't wait till the end to ask it. My mom can read the question to me, and I can answer it and make it easier so we don't forget questions or we pass over information that we want to learn about. One of my products that I make is a plant-based energy bite. They're full of adaptogens, protein, really taste good. And I think that's a big misconception, right? When it comes to eating a plant-based diet, what do people always think? Oh, you're probably eating cardboard and just vegetables. And how do you survive on that diet? So I like to really break that myth and show people that it's really not hard to eat a plant-based diet that tastes good, but it's also really nutrient dense and good for you, right? Forget that, like, our bodies are our temple, and we have to constantly think about getting those nutrients, because it is a little bit of an extra effort when you do go plant-based, right? So my little recipe I want to do today is the plant-based energy bites, and I've already started putting some stuff together. It's kind of hard to see, but I start with a base of peanut butter, and we all know, or at least we hope we do, that peanut butter contains what? Protein. It's a rich source of vitamins and minerals, and it's got so many nutrients in it that help prevent type 2 diabetes, which is so many people are suffering from. So it's a great way to start if you're going to try to make a bite at home. And a lot of these ingredients you should have at home: peanut butter, oats, and I'll go through them. But the first is peanut butter. I buy an organic peanut butter that's just peanuts and salt. I get it at Trader Joe's because everybody thinks, oh, eating plant-based is so expensive, but it isn't. I think that's another myth. And then I add a half a cup of maple syrup. I use organic maple syrup. I get it at Trader Joe's. It's not expensive. And maple syrup is really good, high in polyphenols, very high in antioxidants, right? So peanut butter and maple syrup are the first two ingredients. There's no cooking involved in this. We're just mixing ingredients together. And then a little bit of organic vanilla, half a teaspoon. Again, I got this at Trader Joe's, so we're not talking huge expense. Trader Joe's is really great if you are a new vegan or a vegan that's been for a long time and you need to get ingredients. Trader Joe's does have quite a bit. Chocolate, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is a power source of antioxidants. Now, in this recipe, use the chips, and I also use ground dark chocolate. So if you have a coffee bean grinder at home, you can grind up your chocolate and the oats. That's the next ingredient that goes into this. But you want to first mix the wet ingredients together. So that was the peanut butter, what I talked about, the maple syrup, and then your vanilla. So that's your base. Those are your wet ingredients. So you mix those together first. And you can use a mixer, but it's really easy just to use a spoon. Everything I like to do, make it very simple. So once that's mixed together, You can see it here. It creates like a little bit of like a slurry. Then you start adding your ingredients. So oats, everybody probably has oats at home. Now you can make a version of this for yourself and not use all of these ingredients, just use some of them. And it's going to probably come out very similar in texture and taste. As long as you get those oats, peanut butter, maple syrup, and some dark chocolate, you can make yourself a little energy bite for yourself. I take organic quick oats and put them in, but I also take a cup of organic oats and I grind them in the coffee bean grinder to give it a little finer texture. And then I just had showed you about the chocolate. Oh, let me tell you about oats. Oats help with weight loss. They help keep you full. They're good for fiber. They help reduce the risk of heart disease. So what's one of the leading causes of death in our United States? Heart disease. These are all ingredients that you should be including in your diet. The dark chocolate chips, the ground dark chocolate, and then walnuts. So I grind those walnuts in my little coffee bean grinder too. And walnuts are a big source of omega-3s. Omega-3s are really good for you, helps to lower your cholesterol, right? So I ground those up, that goes in. And then the last ingredient is hemp hearts, which is loaded with protein, right? It helps regulate your heartbeat, and it also is a great source of magnesium, which magnesium helps with our sleep. So those are all the ingredients. You mix those up together, and this is going to create this little energy bite that you can keep in your refrigerator at home. They don't need to be refrigerated, but I put them in the refrigerator just to keep them really fresh. And it's always something you can just eat on the go. And again, that's another thing, right? Like eating vegan on the go can be difficult because you do have to plan. You can't just drive through McDonald's and get something vegan. Even McDonald's French fries, at least the last time I checked, I think are still made with beef lard or beef something in their French fries, or has some kind of animal products. I know I can't eat them, but I think if you can think outside the box, get creative, and a lot of these ingredients you should have at home. Dark chocolate, walnuts, oats. You can make a simple recipe for yourself that's vegan, also really nutrient dense. I'm a big proponent of eating foods that contain sneaky ways to get your protein in, because as we age, we need more protein. And that protein doesn't have to come from animals. So plant sources of protein are always going to be your hemp hearts, your walnuts, your peanut butter. So this is a really high protein energy bite, and also good for our earth, right? Sustainability, that's a huge part of what we've been talking about over the last 2 days. So let's stick with that. So now that it's pretty much just mixed up, and I can show you what it looks like, it kind of forms into like a dough. And then you just take it, and you can make these whatever size you want. You can use a little scooper, but if not, you just put it into your hands. You make these little bites, put them on a plate, and stick them in your refrigerator. Everybody can see that. And you've got yourself a little power bite. Great for kids. And it's also a fun recipe to do with your kids. If you have kids at home and you want to do something to involve them, to say, hey, this is like a dessert, even though it's really not, because it's so healthy for you. But in a way, it really is. Dark chocolate and peanut butter is delicious. I wish I could pass them through the screen. They are really good. I like to make, I see somebody put that up in the chat. Does anybody have any questions yet?
Yeah, we have one that said, can you put coconut in there?
Oh, well, that's the other flavor. So this is Cocoa Crunch. I have 2 flavors on the market. Cocoa Crunch is this one, which is dark chocolate and peanut butter. And then the other flavor, because some people have allergies to peanuts or sensitivity, and I make one that has almond butter, dark chocolate, and coconut, kind of like an Almond Joy candy bar, but a lot healthier. And that one's really good too. And almond butter is, a little bit better for you as far as nut butters are concerned. I think almonds are a little bit higher in like the non-sustainable, the way it well, that's almond milk. So this is almond butter. I have to look into that exactly. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, especially about nutrition, I would love to answer any questions you might have.
Erin, I have a question. How many calories approximately are in those bites?
There's about 75 to 80, around 75 to 85 calories.
Okay.
Which that could seem a lot to some people, but they're very filling. So if you're having an afternoon snack, you know, most people that I work with, most clients that I work with, I always suggest if you're going to do a snack in the afternoon or something in the morning, you want to do about 180 calories to 200, right in that range. So you're not overloading. So this would be good to have a couple of these. They go great with coffee. It's my afternoon snack every day. And the bites that I have on the market have adaptogens in them. And if you're not familiar with adaptogens, you should learn about them. And adaptogens are like ashwagandha, reishi, turkey tail, chaga. And what adaptogens are is basically, think of the word adapt. So they have been around for thousands of years and they've survived all of these years and still flourished. And we found out by studying them that adaptogens help your body deal with stress. Also your mood, anxiety, sleep, all of these things aren't we all suffering from those more than we ever have lately? It seems to me. So adaptogens are a big part of my diet. I drink a lot of coffee that has mushrooms in them. I include it in the bites. I have another product on the market that's a popcorn product that has it in it too. But yeah, any way you can sneak adaptogens into your diet is a really good way. It helps to deal with your cortisol levels. And again, who isn't stressed these days, right? So anytime you can help yourself naturally, right, without going to a doctor where they're just going to prescribe you something to keep you not getting better, let's find out how we can do it naturally. So if you're not familiar with adaptogens, now's your chance to learn about them. You can buy
Erin, I have a question.
Yes.
So are all of those coming from mushrooms like ashwagandha? I know most of those you named I recognize as mushrooms, but is ashwagandha also coming from a mushroom or?
No, they all come from plants, basically. Think of it like that. Like roots, mushrooms, plants, they're all different types of adaptogens. The ones that are mushrooms are obviously going to be your reishi, your turkey tail, right? Let's see, which other ones? So no, it's a grouping of them, right? So they come from different plants. And they all help with different things. So most of the people that I work with, I have them start with ashwagandha in the morning because it helps with combat morning stress. But and like chaga gives you a little bit more of energy boost, but I wouldn't suggest taking chaga at night. But like turkey tail and lion's mane is a mushroom. We all know that. They all have the same adaptogenic properties, right? They help with anxiety, mood, stress, sleep, all the things that we suffer from. And you should start having those in your diet as quickly as possible and as much as possible.
We have another question. So Lisa is asking, she says she loves those mushroom blends. She said she takes ashwagandha. Good. And she wants to get lion's mane, turkey tail, but we'll do a blend. And she's asking, is Gaia, Gaia, a good product for that?
Gaia, is Gaia a brand?
It's capital G, maybe.
Oh, it's a brand. It's a brand. Okay. Gaia. I'm not familiar with Gaia. Is that something that,
it says it's brand.
I don't know Gaia off the top of my head, but I certainly could do some research. I bet it's probably good as long as it's organic. Is that what we're hearing? They are typically organic. Is that in the question? Are they typically organic?
I don't know. I don't see an additional, I don't see anything about that yet, but someone else is asking, can you use dates instead of maple syrup for the sweetener in these energy bites?
You could use you would want to use date syrup or more of a date paste because you need something to help bind those ingredients together, right? To give it something to hold on to, right? You probably could use aquafaba, and that's when you open up a can of garbanzo beans, you always want to get organic. the fluid that's in there is aquafaba, and it has a binding, so we'll keep it vegan. I would use date syrup, or you could maybe try agave, but agave can be highly processed. So I tend to really like maple syrup because maple syrup is so high in antioxidants and polyphenols, right? Those are such good things for your diet. So I would suggest, if you don't want to use maple syrup, then use maybe a date, any kind of date syrup, probably like a date. Yeah, I guess they have date syrup, I think. I know, I've never worked with it. I've worked with date paste. So maybe we could, that would be something I would have to do some research on, but yeah.
Here's the
You just
question.
need something to bind it. Yes.
Here's another question. Are these bars safe for patients with diabetes?
100%. They help to, they help in fighting diabetes, right? Think of all the ingredients that are in here, right? Especially the oats helps ward off type 2 diabetes. You want to think about always about fiber. Remember, diabetes is not, people always think diabetes is attributed to carbohydrate intake, and it's actually not. But we could go down that rabbit hole for a long time. We want to think about things that help lower our blood sugar levels, reduce risk of heart disease, and diabetes. Those are pretty much every ingredient that's in here. Walnuts helps to lower cholesterol. Hemp hearts helps regulate your heart. So, I mean, if you are pre-diabetic, I would certainly go on a plant-based diet. And also, I think a lot of doctors these days, remember, or you might not know this, and I talk about this a lot. So no offense to doctors, because we need them, obviously, but doctors only get 4 hours of nutritional studies in their entire 4 years of residency, or 3 years of residency. So you have to really be careful where you're getting your advice from. And I know this firsthand. I work with plenty of doctors who don't know a lot about nutrition. And so that's why there's so many prescriptions right now of Ozempic and all these drugs to help people lose weight, which is actually a drug for diabetics. But doctors are prescribing it like candy, just giving it out because the side effect is you lose weight. And what about when you go off that? And what is that doing to somebody who isn't a diabetic, who's taking a drug for diabetes? Yes, it might help you lose weight. But then when you go off of it, what are you going to do? How are you going to keep that weight off? Have you learned enough to do that? And I think when you shift to a plant-based diet, and when I say plant-based, I mean as much as you can from plants. I'm not a big advocate of eating a lot of foods that are highly processed vegan foods, because I think can be pretty high in sodium, and so you have to be careful. So the more we eat from the earth, the leaner and cleaner we will always be. And I think when you do that, you also feel so good that it'll sort of help you stay in that lane. I mean, at first when I went vegan, there was nothing on the market. I mean, the cheese, and I've been vegan for over 20 years. Some of the cheeses initially on the vegan market were horrible. They were cardboard, no flavor, they didn't melt. But now there's over 81 kinds of vegan cheeses. 81. So if you can't give up cheese, then you haven't tried all the vegan cheeses that are on the market. I see another question. Do you use oil? And if so, which kind? I am a big advocate of olive oil. I don't use a ton of it, but I do use it sparingly. And then if there's anything I'm cooking that's high heat, I use grapeseed oil. So, or sometimes I'll do like a blend of like a coconut avocado oil. So those are the oils that I use. I try to stay away from oils as much as I can, but sometimes you need them for certain recipes. Also, let's see, salad dressings. That's another one. And I've done this talk before where I've made a salad, and everybody's always asking, what do you dress your salads with? Isn't that, don't you use olive oil? And I don't usually, because I make a salad dressing that's 4 ingredients. Fresh squeezed lemon juice and tahini, squeezable tahini. Tahini is just ground sesame seeds, right? So very nutrient dense. also has protein, also has fiber. And then I do a splash of maple syrup. So that's really the whole salad dressing. And it's just really simple. And some white balsamic vinegar. It's the best salad dressing ever. And then you don't have to buy store-bought salad dressings, which are usually high in soybean oil, which is not healthy. And also some of them are pretty expensive. So just make your own salad dressing at home. You can order squeezable tahini right off the internet, right on Amazon, and it's organic ground sesame seeds. So it's really nutritious for you. And you can save your own.
Could
Yes.
you, oh my gosh, those look so delicious. And whoever said, I wish we could just pass them through the screen. That would be a nice little treat. About how much that salad dressing is really interesting to me, and I haven't tried it yet, but about how much, if you just guessed, of the tahini and balsamic, white balsamic, and what was the third ingredient?
Maple syrup. 4. Yeah,
Oh,
a splash of maple syrup, and that probably comes out to maybe a tablespoon. If I had to measure it, I would do a squeeze of fresh lemon juice across your salad. And I put the salad dressing, I don't make the salad dressing separate. I just put it right on top of the salad and mix it up. Less dishes, less time to clean, less measuring. But if you were to measure, I would say it's probably about 1 tablespoon of maple syrup or less, depending on how you like your dress, if you like it sweet. And then the other ingredient was the squeezable tahini, and I just kind of squeeze on top. I would say that's about a tablespoon if you're making a salad just for yourself or you and one other person, a tablespoon or 2. You don't need a lot. It gives it that really creamy texture too. Imagine like a Caesar salad with that creamy dressing. It's kind of got that similar consistency. And then the white balsamic vinegar, I probably do a 1/4 of a cup maybe, or an 1/8 of a cup. Not too much. But when you mix all that together, it's a beautiful, flavorful, creamy dressing loaded with nutrients, which is really nice. So, and who doesn't like a healthy salad? I think everybody should be doing 1 salad a day to really get as many nutrients as they can from whole foods. And it's nice to have a salad dressing that you can just never have to worry about keeping in a refrigerator, and you can do it just on the spot, and it'll take you, I don't know, less than 30 seconds. And then you just mix it all up and you have a salad. It's wonderful. So I would have done that today, but I wanted to do something different because I feel like I've been making that salad on TV for so long. So I wanted to show my bites off a little bit because they're so easy to make. And a lot of people have these ingredients in their house, right? I mean, who doesn't have oats in their house, right? So.
Erin, I wonder if you have any stories of transformation from people you've helped that went from being overweight and probably eating a high fat, high animal meat diet and transitioning to something more plant-based and using food as the mechanism for helping them lose weight. Do you have any example that you could mention?
Yeah, a lot actually. But one of my most probably pronounced as far as like weight loss and specifically was my next door neighbor, who was, when I first moved to this house here in Tampa, she was working with another trainer and she wasn't losing any weight. And we became very good friends. And I said, why don't you work out with me sometime? And so we started working together, and I would see her diet, and because we lived next door to each other. So she was always telling me, what she was eating and stuff. And so finally one day I just said, how about this? Let's get off the dairy. Let's start there. And again, that was one of her light bulb moments. Once she gave up the dairy, she lost not just from the dairy, but less meat as we eased into it. But in 1 year, she lost over 85 pounds, and she's kept it off. And I've still trained her for the last 12 years of my life. I still work with her. So just making those small changes, because people don't realize how fattening cheese and dairy is, right? We forget about the calories and we forget about the saturated fat. And
well, that was the point Dr. Rayo was making, that dairy is the bigger problem.
Yes, it is. And if you think, oh, well, I drink skim milk. Well, they take out the fat, right? And what do they put back in it to give it flavor? Sugar, right? That's the secret of every industry opposite of what all of us are here for, right? Is this SOS, salt, oil, sugar. That's how they change it to make it palatable, right? Yeah, it's fat-free, low calories. But what are they putting in it? A long list of chemicals. In fact, I just found out about, I don't eat Kellogg's cereal, but I think it's, yeah, Kellogg's. Kellogg's makes a bunch of cereals for not just for our country, it's for other countries too. And we're the only country that still has the harmful chemicals in it, like BHT and a couple other ingredients. Still, other countries, they've taken it out of because other countries have demanded it. Here in the US, we still have it in our cereals. And that's what we're feeding our children. Like, that makes no sense to me. Other countries are getting healthier and we are the last. We need to change that.
Yeah, school lunches. Someone brought up school lunches, and many of us have written and supported legislation to change that program. The federal government, all of us taxpayers, are paying for dairy to be given to students. It's terrible.
Yes, and most of it gets thrown away.
One thing, I'm reading a couple things from the chat. Someone said, wow, I'm vegan and I'm obese, but I'm working on it. So,
oh, good. I mean, whoever that person is, that they want to reach out to me privately, Erin at efitfoods.com, I can certainly help. I mean, that's what I do for a living. I'm, a health coach, nutritional consultant, a personal trainer. That's my passion in life, is to help people. And sometimes it is hard, even if you're vegan, you don't know where to go and what to eat. And it's confusing. It's very confusing. But back to somebody also, I saw another question on there, but somebody asked if I had coffee. I drank coffee. And yes, I drink coffee. I love coffee. I drink coffee that is has the mushrooms in it. And I use an oat milk, and I use a little bit of vanilla and a little stevia in it. And I do that every single day. Coffee time is my favorite. A lot of times I'll have it with one of my bites for my afternoon before dinner, kind of that, when you get that little afternoon, you need a little something to pick you up. So you should look on the market for the coffees with adaptogens in it. There's so many of them now, and it's really exciting. Yeah,
they're delicious. Erin, we had one I missed, a comment or a question rather, about chia seeds, saying, can we add those to your product? Now I've lost it. Here it is. Can we add chia seeds to this recipe? And they want to know, will it melt if I take it in my car in the summer?
Well, that depends on where you live. But yes, you could, instead of using the hemp hearts, you could do a blend of hemp hearts and chia seeds. That'd be great, actually. Lots of fiber. Chia seeds have a ton of fiber and also protein. I love hemp hearts, but you could certainly do it with chia seeds instead of the hemp hearts. And remember that if you saw when I was in the beginning putting all the ingredients together into these, there is dark chocolate, just the little chips in here, but there's also ground dark chocolate. So, I mean, if you live here in Florida, and you left it on your front seat and it's August, yeah, they're probably going to melt. But I keep a little cooler in my car, always, because I'm always out and about. And so you could certainly be prepared. Remember, being vegan and being plant-based is always a little bit extra effort, but so worth it, as we all know. So if you have a little cooler you keep in your car, then I would throw them in there. But just if you had them out on your counter, they wouldn't melt at all. But I don't know where that question came from, like where they live. But yeah, I mean, like the dark chocolate pieces could get a little bit melted, but it's actually really tasty that way too. So it just depends on, you want to be licking your fingers while you're driving. But
so we have a message from Genevieve in Minnesota, who's been working on the plant-based meal option bill, and she got it introduced HF 4999/SF5051 in the Minnesota legislature. And she said it won't get through this season, but we need all hands on deck to get plant-based options in the schools. Yes, Genevieve, thanks for your good work. And that might be a model bill for other states that don't yet, that haven't started yet working on that.
And maybe Genevieve can share how she did that and how we can do it. Or also, Genevieve, if you're still on, how can we support you in this? How can we help? Do you need signatures? Is it only in your district? Can you share with everybody how we could do that in our own cities? Because I think that might be, you know, sometimes as advocates, we don't really know what to do or how to get started. And if you already are able to show how you've done that and you've reached out and you've gotten the signatures, I would love if you could share that with us and in the chat, maybe provide a link to how you did it or to the bill. And we would love to learn a little bit more about it so that we can do that in our own cities.
We have a comment here saying that maybe we're getting some mixed messages with coffee and chocolate having a high environmental footprint, and why are we promoting them?
I'm not promoting either. I like coffee. I buy fair trade coffee. That's just my personal preference. That doesn't mean anybody else has to. And I don't eat a ton of dark chocolate. It's in my product in a very small amount, and it's fair trade. So I feel like I'm doing my part, especially that I've been vegan for over 20 years and my whole goal in life is to help everybody else go vegan. So that's my personal opinion. Sorry if that's not exactly what you wanted to hear, but I think if we all do our part to not eat meat and dairy, we're doing pretty good. And again, not everybody has to drink coffee or eat dark chocolate. I'm just showing you a recipe that I make, that I love, and is really nutritious and tastes great. So, any other questions?
Some coffee, we could say, saved some of our jobs in our life, perhaps. So there is that benefit that it does keep us awake and alert when we need to at times. But definitely there is an environmental impact from chocolate and from coffee. And I wanted to clarify something I said previously. I wasn't trying to say that all beer was vegan. My slide said not all beers are vegan. I thought that was what I was trying to say. Let's see, we have a couple more comments. Some of these are about contacting their reps, so we're getting more information from Genevieve.
Oh, good. Thank you, Genevieve.
Oh, she said the Illinois bill was a model. A senator from the Illinois. And they got they also introduced a resolution for plant-based school lunch in multiple precincts in the Maryland caucuses or Minnesota caucuses this February. So congratulations on all that great work, Genevieve.
Yes. And speaking of when you were talking about the beer, I always thought that all wine was vegan, but because I love wine, and not all wine is vegan. They use, in the filtration process, sometimes they use bone ash for the filtration. So support the wines that are vegan. I'm actually a vegan hospitality consultant, and we're working with businesses, hotels, restaurants to help get them certified for their vegan guests. So definitely the world is changing.
So we got a message from Tammy. Hey, and she says, thank you, Erin. I like tahini for power balls and dates instead of maple syrup. So thanks.
Great.
Thanks,
Jane,
Tammy.
It's time to wrap it up.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your attention. Erin, do you want to have any last comments?
If you would like to order some amazing high protein, healthy plant-based bites, you can go to my website, efitfoods.com, and get some of these. And thank you all for being here, and thank you for supporting the vegan lifestyle. And or if you're interested in becoming vegan, these are all, we're just happy to have anybody in our community and help it grow. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening. I very much appreciate that. And I really love the support from our community.
And ditto, Erin, thank you for taking your time today to be part of the convergence. And Rebecca, thank you for all your help with the slides. It's been great to be a part of the program. We'll check out here. Let's see.
Thank you so much.